lawmakers increasing attention to China and the Chinese Communist Party. And then came the balloons, and that amped up that attention. This week, the new House Select Committee on China met for the first time. And why is that local news? Because Miami Congressman Carlos Gimenez played a prominent role there. Congressman, welcome aboard this morning.
Thank you, Glenna. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much. So last year, the director of national intelligence, even a year ago, said that China presents the broadest, most active and persistent cyber espionage threat to U.S. government and private networks. And that was even before the balloon. So the issues that you're looking at go way beyond. What was your takeaway from that first meeting this week?
Takeaway was that we have a bipartisan issue that we can rally around, both Democrats and Republicans. All the members on that committee pretty much are in agreement that China poses a significant threat. And to me, actually, China poses the greatest threat of my lifetime to our safety, to our security, to our freedom, not only here in the United States, but around the world.
Explain a little bit, detail why. I mean, that's a very strong statement considering that over the years, the U.S. has faced significant threats from other places. Yeah. Detail that for me.
Well, because China actually has the economic power, might, to actually carry out its plans. The Soviet Union was a first-rate military power, but a third-rate economic power. The way that we defeated the Soviet Union basically was economically, and so they collapsed under their own weight. China's a different kind of thing. China is the second largest economy in the world. They're gaining on us, and they're using our strengths against us, the somewhat semi-capitalistic system, but more and more so, they're becoming more of a centrally controlled economy, which that I think will actually work in our favor. But right now, China is building their nuclear arsenal at an unprecedented rate. They're building their military at an unprecedented rate. Their navy is trying to become a blue water navy. They're building defensive systems that can keep us at bay militarily, and then economically, what they're doing around the world is basically they're eating our lunch, especially down here in South America. Their investments, the things that they own, are with an eye towards the future. I'll give you one example. 70% of the rare earth minerals actually lie in South America. Well, China owns 80% of them, and so our natural resources from this hemisphere are actually flowing to China so that they can make solar panels and wind turbines. The problem is they don't use them. They're powered by coal, and they continue to have more and more coal-fired electric plants every single week. They send us the stuff to be green. They end up being dirtier every single year, and so yeah, they're a significant threat to us. And then their philosophy, what they really want, they're a Marxist society. It's a communist party. And their wish is to dominate the world. Simple as that.
So let's take those two things, because usually when we hear the lawmakers who take a very hard line toward communist governments, what is not involved in the calls for, I think your word was decoupling and sanctions. What's not involved is such economic ties. And is the U.S. dependence right now on supply chain and those minerals that you talk about that are very much a part of technological components that the U.S. needs, that makes it a much different kind of issue to deal with.
Yeah, it does, and it makes it more difficult because look, the Soviet Union was our greatest adversary, in the 70s, 80s, et cetera. But we never had those close economic ties with them, all right? And that's one of the reasons why at the end, they collapsed, because they could never keep up with us economically. We are tied to China, and that's why we have to decouple. We have to incentivize companies to come back to America, or at the least, come back to this hemisphere. And so either onshore or nearshore that supply chain that we need. This is not going to be without pain. But here, Glenna, the problem is every dollar that we spend on a Chinese good or service, et cetera, is another dollar that's going to be used against the United States, another dollar that's going to be used to dominate the world. And that's exactly what the Chinese Communist Party is doing. And so the good thing, again, is that both Republicans and Democrats we are united. We see the threat. We may have some differences of opinion on how we deal with that threat, but we see the threat for what it is. And America has to be united in this effort. If not, by the year 2049, which is what the Communist Chinese Party wants, China will be the dominant economic power in the world, and they will be the dominant military power in the world if we don't unite here, face the threat, and combat it. Because I don't want my children or my grandchildren living in a world dominated by the Chinese Communist Party.
So are there clear goals at the moment, or is the committee charged with actually coming up with some goals?
No, what we're going to do is investigate and see what is China doing around the world. What are their business practices, and how are they basically cheating? They don't really follow the rules, And so, they're part of the WTO, but they really don't follow the WTO. And so, the Chinese model is basically the party controls an industry. They feel, well, we want to dominate that, so we will invest in that, and we will make sure that that particular industry dominates the world. And then once everybody else, all the competition is gone, they're going to focus on something else. This is what they do. Look, they have a thing called Belt and Roads Initiative all around the world, investing heavily in South America, in Africa, and other places, getting the materials that they need, the raw materials that they need. They're looking at establishing bases around the world. And they're establishing a blue water navy. All of that is to confront the United States of America and its allies. And so we have to make sure that we and our allies see the Chinese Communist Party for what it is. And it's not going to be an easy fight. And I don't want it to be a hot war, but we better start taking the steps so that we can start to decouple and hurt them where it hurts them most, which is economically.
So we will hopefully from you get some really big insights from those committee meetings. Thanks so much. Really appreciate that, Congressman.
It's my pleasure.